If you are staying in of the desires, if you are not wanting to look at the mission, then you will start to become more of the destabilized. You will feel more of the yuckiness, and then you'll be trying to find more of the desires to not feel of the yuckiness. And then you are in of this treadmill, which many of your species are on this of the treadmill. They are going from one of the desires to the next of the desires, and the desires are never actually being of the fulfillment. Eventually, these desires destabilize you in such a form that you are collapsing into the mission. This is what you call of the awakening. This is what you call of the healing crisis. This is what you'd be seeing when people are being of the sickness. All of this is being of the design to bring you back into of the alignment of the mission.
From everything that I've read from the great masters, a theme that's very clear is that suffering ends when you don't have desire, when you no longer desire anything. But isn't it, especially bearing what you've just said, isn't it our inherent soul desire to remember who we are? So how do those two forms of thought actually blend together? So how can we rid ourselves of desire, because that's what we're supposed to do to become realized or enlightened, and at the same time, how do we not desire inherently what we're here to do, which is to experience as much as possible and to remember who we are?
This is much of the goodness of the question, but you are of the confusing of the word of the desire. What you are being of the talking about is the difference of the desire to the difference of the mission. You are standing here on the edge of the veil before you decided to be coming in on this theme park, and within that you are standing there looking at of the mission that you decide that you being of the choosing to experience. That mission is a journey from of the forgetfulness to of the remembering. That mission is of feeling of the lost and of the confused to being of the expanded of the conscious awareness remembering aspect. In that is not of the desire. This is just of the mission. And you may not be of the desiring of the mission. This is just of the mission. What you are then be of the considering of the desiring is that you are being of the desiring of things to take you away from sometimes of the mission, to help you to be forgetting of the mission, to help you thinking that you enjoy of the theme park more. Often the desire is just of the distraction. This is why many of the histories have been talking about you don't want to have any of the desire. This is because often the desire is of the distraction. Often the desire is to take you away from the mission, so that you being of the remembering of the mission, because the further you move away from of the mission, the more you feel of the destabilized. When you are in of the alignment of the mission, you feel more stable. So there is a innate, what you might consider of a desire to be on of the mission, because you feel more of the stable, you feel more of the happiness, you feel more of the joyness. When you are journeying into other of the desires, this is often much of the distraction to being of the mission. So when you are letting go of the desires, then you are able to naturally just be floating back into the mission. At a much of the soulness level, you are desiring to be on the mission. But as of the earthing experience level, you are being of the distraction, because there are many unfamiliar things here. So there is an innate of the fearness of being in this of the theme park, because for some moments as you are remembering, you are getting in of the fear space. You are being of the worried. You are not sure where you actually are being. You are feeling that you are not at the home space, that you are not belonging in this space, and therefore you are using of the desire to be of a distraction to try and make you feel of the betterness, to make you feel of the more happiness and of the more joyness. In essence, the desirness is not of the badness. The desire is much of the goodness if you wish to be of the experiencing, but you must be returning to the mission. If you are staying in of the desires, if you are not wanting to look at the mission, then you will start to become more of the destabilized. You will feel more of the yuckiness, and then you'll be trying to find more of the desires to not feel of the yuckiness. And then you are in of this treadmill, which many of your species are on this of the treadmill. They are going from one of the desires to the next of the desires, and the desires are never actually being of the fulfillment. Eventually, these desires destabilize you in such a form that you are collapsing into the mission. This is what you call of the awakening. This is what you call of the healing crisis. This is what you'd be seeing when people are being of the sickness. All of this is being of the design to bring you back into of the alignment of the mission. Because this is the truth of what you are wishing to be of the achieving. This is the truth of what you are wishing to be experiencing. But there are many of the distractions that are being of the playing out on your planetary construct in this of the moment. And this is of the problematic situation when you are not in of the alignment of the mission.
So what I'm hearing from you is that you've separated desires from mission, so that we tend to desire all these other things that are not our mission, and that distracts us from doing our mission. But what if, like for me personally, my only desire is to complete my mission? That's my only desire. So is that desire, because it's still a desire, is that a desire that I need to let go of in order for me to fall into?
What you must be of the understanding is the essence of the word that you are speaking of the desire. There is a soul aspect of this reality that is being of a driver to help you to be in of the mission. There is a much of the deeper heartscape, Danteanscape desire that is wishing for you to be on and in of the mission. Then you have of the word that is not as of the deeper aspect, which is of the external representation and of the distraction. So we are talking about of the semantics of the words, and the words are not of the goodness. They're very difficult to be of the understanding through of the wordness, because when you are thinking of the mission desire, it is much deeper than just of the desire. It is much more of the profoundness than of the desire. It is more of a kin of the driver, of the necessity, of the must-dos, and of the need to do. This is a deeper desire, deeper version of what you might be considering of desire. So yes, you could be calling it of a desire, but it is much more of a deeper nature than of what you might be thinking of other desires that are of the distractive nature. And when people are being of the listening to this, we wish them to understand that what you've been considering, Miss Eleni, of the desire and the desire that we are talking about are much of the difference. There is a big of the difference. One is much in the alignment of your soul aspect of the reality. It is part of what you're being brought into this of the lifescape and what you will be taking from of the lifescape. Whereas the other desires are just passing distractions within of the theme park of itself. You might be seeing you might be having of the mission to go through of the theme park, to go through one of the doors of the theme park and then out of the other doors of the theme park. And within that, you are there to help expand of the theme park. But as you are walking through of the theme park, you will see lots of distractions of the desire nature. Oh, I desire to go on that ride, and I'm much of the desire to go on that ride, and I want the desire to go on that ride. What is of the happening is that you can be on any of the rides that you are wishing. It is when of the rides you get stuck on, you want to keep going on. Oh, I just desire to be on that ride all of the time. I don't want to go anywhere else but be on that ride all of the time, that you get into of the troubleness because of the destabilization of that aspect of reality. So what we are much talking about and what we wish for everyone to be of the understanding is the desire you talk of in the alignment of the mission is much deeper than the desire that you be thinking of. Much more of the profoundness, much more of the importantness, and people be experiencing this desire when they have what you'd be calling of the awakening moment, when they have of the healing crisis and then have of the awakening moment. where they realize that what is the mission that they're here on, and where they can get much more of the profoundness of experience, where you can get much more of the depth of the universal aspect here in this theme park. It is much more than just of the desire.
That's beautiful. Are there any final words that you would like to say before we bring Marcus back? Ameed.
We would just like you to be continuing to be of the remembering, just of the specialness of your mission, the specialness of your journey, the specialness of your beingness at the much of the deepest level, and that the vehicle that you are experiencing is much of the transient nature. It is not the real aspect of who you are. It's just of a transient nature. When you enter of this theme park, you put on a what you might call a uniform. You put on an outfit, because in this theme park you need to be wearing of the outfit, but it is not of the who-ness of you. It is not of the mission of you. It is just it's just an aspect for you to be of the surviving in this dimensional reality and this of the theme park. When you'll be of the leaving, when you'll be of the transition through this, you will be leaving of the suit behind. When you are connecting in of the mission, then you'll be understanding this of the fullness. Therefore, you are much of the specialness, and you are much of the loved. We have much of the excitement that is being of the coming to you. Much of the blessed and much of the loved.
Thank you so much, Ameed. But the other sort of paradox that we discussed is, because I've had this thing in my head about desires, because everything that I read, it's like we need to release desires.
Totally.
But then I was trying to marry that up with, what about the inherent desire of the soul to do the mission work we're here to do, because that's my number one desire.
Totally.
And what Ameed was saying is not to confuse the two. They are two different. So the desire of the soul and the mission work is something that we will naturally fall into when we're not distracted by other desires.
Correct. I think that's I think that makes sense, that it's not the same. And actually that soul desire is actually not really a desire. It's just an innate part of who we are. And we want to return to that. And everything else then becomes a distraction to keep us away from that. And that's where the ultimate power exists. And if anything else is playing out on the planet, then the aim is to keep people away from that. So, of course, there's lots of desire distractions that look really sexy and amazing and incredible. And do you know what I mean? Like all of these things, oh, wow, lots of bright lights and flashing lights. And, it's just a distraction as far as I can tell.
Yeah, of course, they're all distractions. But it's interesting that, because I was thinking that I have to release myself of all desires, but I don't, of my desire, which is the desire that I have, which Ameed doesn't call a desire, is to connect to my mission work. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm
totally.
here. But
That's
what you're
exactly
saying, that's
why
not a
you're here.
desire. That's just who you are.
Yeah.
That's what you just said.
I think we have to separate the difference. And yes, you could call it a desire. I mean, it's only some words, right? It's just words that we're using. So call it whatever you want to call it, as long as it's, it's not the distraction desire, right? Of stuff outside of you, flashing lights and stuff. I think my desire, your desire, if we want to call it that, is to live our truth and to be the fullness of who we are and live our mission and get the messages out, or whatever that might be. But I think that's I don't know, that's just an innate thing that we just have.
That's like a soul desire as opposed to an ego desire.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's a good difference.
And the other thing is the ego puts a time on it. So the ego will say, okay, so now I want to do this now.
Got to have it now.
We don't know the big picture. We don't know the big plan. Our human doesn't know the actual plan. And so that is egoic when we put a time factor in it, as opposed to just knowing that everything will unravel exactly when it's supposed to.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah. And I think that's what the old sages and, all these amazing beings that have been here have tried to tell us, to let go of desire, is so that we let go of that, the ego desire or the distraction desire, as opposed to the soul mission type desire. Because that's really the only desire. Everything else is distraction. That's actually not desire. So we can either do one or the other. We can call them desires and the soul aspect not a desire because it's just the innate. Or we can say that's actually the only desire. The rest is distraction. So maybe do you know what I mean? Like maybe we reverse it. that is the actual ultimate desire, is to live your truth and be on mission. Everything else is a distraction. It's not really a desire.
Yeah, exactly. So do you believe, Marcus, that if we don't get distracted by those other things, and we just stay still, not stay still as in do nothing, but really connecting with ourselves as much as possible, that our mission work would just appear in front of us?
Totally.
Do you believe that?
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's there. It's there. But you see, the interesting part about it, and if you use soul versus ego, just because you mentioned that, one's very loud, one's very quiet, right? So the soul is very whispers.
Yeah.
The ego yells and screams, right? So as we know, sometimes it literally yells and screams. And so I think that's the issue. So if you're not quiet and still, sometimes you can't hear it. So it's very easy then to be drawn out into the other desires, if we want to call them that, or the distractions, because they're the ones yelling at you, going, look at me, look at me. Whereas the soul doesn't do that. The soul doesn't ask you to look at it. It just sits there, waits patiently for you to show up. And when you show up, it goes, here's everything, or here's, the next thing, or here's this thing. But it's very gentle and patient, and that's the true nature of the universe. Is that it's patient and gentle, and it just exists, and it doesn't call on anybody. It doesn't ask for anything. It just exists. And when we show up, it shows us everything.
Beautiful.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think that's
that feels right.
Way to end this episode, which is, where is your desire coming from? Is your desire coming from the ego? So it's transitory. It's just this sort of gratification that's not really your soul's full embodiment, or is it coming from your soul where and I think you can feel the difference.
Yeah, without a doubt, you can feel the difference. It's a huge difference. Huge. Because one's incredibly shallow and leaves you either wanting more or leaves you with nothing, hollow. Like, shit, that was, do you know what I mean? Like, the other is hugely deep and just draws you in further and further and unravels and shows more and more. And it's, it's ultimately more exciting.
Absolutely.
Ultimately.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Cool. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you again for bringing Ameed, and thank you for yourself for always showing up. Thank you, Marcus.
You too. Yeah, it's beautiful. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Please share, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Galactic Guidance. We hope that the messages that you receive from the higher realms have brought you clarity, insight, and comfort. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Remember to stay connected to your own inner guidance and trust the journey ahead.